Hello and welcome back to Indie Book Talk. We have a history making guest, I think it's fair to say, with us today. Owen Keehnen is the co founder of the Legacy Project, which we'll talk about. He's also recently authored a book, LGBTQ plus Icons, with David Cisco doing the visuals for that book. And we are just super excited. I'm super excited to have you on the show. Owen, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
So the first question that I just want to cover for those who don't know, can you tell us a little bit about the Legacy Project?
Sure. We're a LGBTQ history and education organization. Um, Basically, what we're doing is reclaiming LGBTQ history that's been redacted from history or just not been celebrated. So, what we're doing is bringing that to light and celebrating it. We've had 50 bronze plaques on the pylons of North Halsted Street in Chicago. And each of those commemorate an LGBTQ person from history. Um, and the Legacy Project next month celebrates 10 years.
That's amazing.
Very
So when I
cool.
Yeah,
said history making, what I meant was history recovering, I think.
that's a nice way. It feels a lot like archaeology in a way
Yeah.
because you're sort of
So,
uncovering a history as much as
so can you give like an example? Of,
well, I mean, just throughout history, so many times the church or
Mhm.
academia or the government or families um, will just, if someone has been LGBTQ, will just sort of take that out of the whole equation. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's been going on forever. You can go back to Michelangelo, who was, just in love with his art, and it really doesn't seem that way. Things like that, where
Mhm.
uh, it's just not been presented. All it's really doing is putting a different filter on history and sort of
Mhm.
celebrating that part of it and allowing LGBTQ stories to be part of the bigger story. That's all this
That's
is,
great.
really.
Mhm. Very cool.
Now, is the LGBTQ plus icons book part of that legacy project, or is this a separate project?
It's a separate project, but of course it's got like a serpentine connection. I worked at Unabridged Bookstore here in Chicago. Yay, independent bookstores for a
Yes.
Yay.
long time. David's local bookstore, and David came in, and we had been talking for a long time, and I'd been an admirer of David's art, and I had been working for the Legacy Project, where basically I would do these 325 to 350 word bios of people, and we were talking about like doing a book like that or something like that, and um, then it had to have been, I swear, the next weekend. David went to Saugatuck, Michigan, and ran into someone who wanted to do a history exhibit at the museum there and wanted 26 portraits of LGBTQ people in history. So what happened was then I did the little bios to go along with them because we'd just been
Oh.
talking about this. And David had already been working a bit with Trope Publishing, the publisher,
Mhm.
doing a book on science, the same sort of book except with young scientists. Um, and so when they saw that at Trope, this display, they said, that needs to be a book. So it was full speed ahead, and the book sort of came out of all that connection.
Nice.
Yeah,
I
it's
love
kind
when
of
things come
connected with the
together.
Legacy Project because now David is doing portraits for the Legacy Project too. So it's
Oh, wow.
Ah.
very kind of, well, part of Legacy Project is working with an education initiative to try to get lesson plans for
Mm-hmm.
schools together. And so to try to make the lesson plans more engaging, um, David works with his art to, make the images friendly and fun.
Are you
So
getting good response from the school systems and
it
and
hasn't
changing
started
the
yet. It's all happening.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Well, fingers crossed you get a good response that people will take
Yeah.
that on.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not taking that. I'm, not a lesson plan writer or anything like that. But yeah, it's very exciting because that's what this whole component came out of. It came out of, like, truthfully, as someone who grew up in the 60s, like, Don't Say Gay is nothing new. It's like what I grew up with. It's like just,
Mm,
it's like when you're told a story, imagine how you would feel if you were just like not mentioned in the story. Like
mhm.
it's really dehumanizing in a way. So one of the things, and especially that was compensated, excuse me, um, with with uh, AIDS, the AIDS years as well, because I would just see so much history kind of gone, and so that sort of uh, the importance of celebrating our history sort of never became more important. And that's another thing I love about this book is David's images so capture the celebratory nature of what this is all about. I mean, when people tell me that, history is dry and boring, I'm always like, you've got to be
Mm,
studying the wrong kind of history because you can find a topic. If you find the right topic that interests you, it's not. It's time
mm.
travel. It's like a doorway into a whole different world, you
Well,
know?
and
I
this is
wanna see one
really
of these pictures.
I know,
Oh,
we'll
the
have to
David
find some.
pictures. Have you
Yeah, do
seen
you
them?
have 'em?
Oh, there we go.
Oh, yeah.
Ah, nice.
I'm sorry. I'm always so confused. I hold it up to your picture up there. Can you,
Flip it
No,
over,
it's
flip it over.
perfect.
am I
Oh, I
showing
love
you?
Oh,
that.
wow.
So, and
Those
this
are
is
so
the cover,
charming.
Frida Kahlo. And then there's some of his
Lovely.
images on the back.
Those are so
So
cool.
they're beautiful. They're beautiful.
Yeah.
One of the things that David was so excited about with working with Trope is the how vibrant the colors were, how much attention
Mhm,
was paid to that. Because um, like with having, like, for example, a red cover, it was very
Mhm.
much like a, "Ooh," I mean, if you, it's a perfect red, but red can go off very easily.
Yeah, and getting printing right takes
Yes.
a
mhm.
lot. As we especially, small press and indie authors know that you can really be let down by
Oh,
printing, and
Yes.
variation that can seem really small suddenly becomes very big when it's printed across an entire book and you're holding it in your
sure.
hand.
Oh,
Yeah.
sure. And part of it is too, is, I mean, I can imagine that would only be heightened if you were an artist, and it'd have your art not,
Yes.
but especially because his art is so based on color that was especially important.
Yeah.
But you're
I would have
you're
loved to see it in
find it.
person, the display at the museum in person. That would have been really cool. I wish I had
It's still there.
known.
It's still
Is
there.
it? Okay. Okay,
Yes,
we're gonna
yes.
get tickets.
You've been held over. Yes.
We're gonna have to fly out there.
Road trip.
Field trip.
Where are you? Where are
I'm
you?
in Maine and
I'm in
Shelly
Virginia.
is in Virginia.
Well,
So it would be a bit of a haul, but I think we can make it work.
you know, that would
So
be
is the book, just those first initial portraits that were from the display, or were
no.
more added for the book?
This is 50 altogether, and we wanted to choose a very diverse representation of. We just wanted. everyone represented, you know,
Mhm.
all sorts of diversity. But then also we wanted, since these were all people in the arts, I was really concerned that there would be artistic balance too, so that we have as many you know,
Mhm.
I have a lot of dancers and visual artists and fashion designers, and basically like that every sort of art would be
Mhm.
represented. So if someone is looking, you know, at this book saying, you know, I want to learn more about, I'm studying to be a dancer, and you know, this person could be someone I'd want to study. So there's someone hopefully that resonates with everyone. Hopefully
Now,
more.
who's the one that really resonated with you when you were writing it? Is there one or two that you said, "Oh, this one, I'm really excited to write this one"?
You know, I've done a lot of them for Legacy Project, and I'm really excited to do all of them. I really am. It's one of the I these bios are 225 to 275 words. So what you're trying to do is tell the person's story and do it in a like compelling narrative. So it's,
Mhm.
I really mean that when I say it's like this fun sort of challenge
Mm.
that's a good time. But I am constantly like just every time I go back and start redoing these, I have new favorites all the time. From this, I'm really excited to have a lot of people that maybe didn't get um, as much play as other people. I think when David and I decided to do this book, we wanted to include people like uh, Danny Sotomayor and Chavela Vargas and Lee Bowery and a lot of people that aren't just um, the usual suspects kind of
Mm.
thing. And we also,
Mhm.
I wanted to have everyone be posthumous. That was the other thing I wanted them. I
Okay.
wanted them all to be kind of historic. Um, I really liked doing the bio of Danny Sotomayor, who is in this book, who was a friend of mine. And he was an AIDS activist here in Chicago, worked with ACT UP. He did a lot of their graphics that they used to raise money. And then also, he was the nationally syndicated political cartoonist during the AIDS years. So his cartoons, there's dozens of these cartoons that basically are a political uh, critique of all aspects of being a person with AIDS or living with HIV or maneuvering the
Mhm.
system with that. Personally, the people I'm always inspired by are, I really am inspired by people who blend their art with activism. I like
Okay.
that a lot. I think I think that gets me a lot because there's usually so much passion behind it. Like so many. Ronaldo Arenas, Danny Sotomayor, who I just mentioned. So much courage by so many people. A lot of them to basically live their lives at the time they did, you know. And I mean, the
Mhm.
arts were very, you know, the arts historically are usually more open, you know. And
Mhm.
even then,
Well,
it's
and
been
I
some.
don't think it's possible for someone from like my generation to even fully understand what it was like to live through the AIDS epidemic. That was the way that the community was treated at that time and the fear is no matter how many times I read about it, I'm still shocked by it. It still feels like something that I can't even fully understand.
It's yeah, it truthfully, I don't think that a lot of people who in like live through it can really understand it. In some ways, it was sort of a um, the best way I can describe it is like it would be if I don't even know if COVID only affected certain people
Mm.
and nobody else cared, and and basically there was like no funding for it or anything like that, where there would
Mhm.
just be, and not only that, but there was this leeway too to almost make it like it was acceptable to have it be part of humor, like on
Mm.
like on
Mhm.
late night, and I mean really it's it's things like that. So I think the thing that it did was that it really solidified the community, brought the community together, brought made us realize that nobody hands us anything. We have to fight for what we get. Just because gay liberation has happened has not
Mhm.
changed a lot of things in some ways. And I think today that's what scares a lot of older LGBTQ people with the Don't Say Gay bill. It's not
Mhm.
trying to put somebody back in the closet or keep them in the closet. It's putting them back on the closet, and it's putting a padlock on the closet. It's
Mhm.
it's terrifying, and the fact of to be an older person too, an older LGBTQ person, it also is really like it makes you feel like you've let the future down in a way too, because you're just like,
Mm.
wow, that's where it is. You know what I mean? Where I'm I'm sure there's so many other groups that feel the same way. I'm sure, but it's just the sort of thing where anyway, I didn't mean to bring the conversation
No,
down.
Well,
no, no.
I
It's
don't think
been
you're
very
letting
interesting.
anyone
Go, go,
down.
go.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
this
this
book
kind
is
of
a celebration. This collaboration is a celebration, and
yeah.
it's
Mhm.
really exciting and beautiful to see. Is this your first book?
No, I've done several books. I've done a lot of fiction, nonfiction. I've done a lot of LGBTQ history. My focus on my LGBTQ history outside of the Legacy Project has always been more fragile history, meaning the history that's in people's memories. So I tend to do like
Oh,
I've
okay.
I've been working on one for a while now about the Belmont Rocks, which was a queer space here in Chicago from
Mhm.
probably the early 1960s through the time they were demolished in 2003. And it's the site recently, it's been uh, the ribbon cutting was in June for AIDS Garden Chicago and the
Oh.
Oh
site
wow.
of the Belmont Rocks. But I like a lot of that history that has a real risk of sort of slipping through the cracks. And the
Mhm.
important thing with that is that it's not only the history that's being lost, it's the whole lifestyle that's being lost too. It's just like going back to the to AIDS again. It's part of it is showing that this world and these people who were part of this world were more than like an AIDS statistic.
Mhm.
It's that there was like this whole vibrant world, and these people were a lot more than just tragic, you know.
Hmm.
So that's been a big part of it. Of my historic focus has been sort of to celebrate the history, the oral history that's in people's memories. That's not headline making. That's just going to kind of
Mhm.
could easily slip through the cracks.
So
But
that would be your next one that you're putting out is the Belmont
I've,
Rocks one?
I've been trying to do right now. I have a Facebook page that's called A Place for Us LGBTQ Life at the Belmont Rocks. And that's kind of a repository now for all the pictures and different stories. The problem is this place was such a visual celebration that these pictures have to be in color. And
Mm.
it's like all different kinds of, which publishing wise is like, you know,
Yeah.
here's my gift to the community. It's a $300 book. Yeah, it's exactly. So now I'm working on tiptoeing through that grant territory, whatever, so kind of trying to figure out, because it seems like something that could easily happen that way. I just am not that familiar with it.
So if anyone listening has a
Yes,
chunk of change that they want to drop on a really important project,
I am
to
so easy to work with.
keep history alive, to help people remember where they came from, to make sure that these things aren't lost, maybe give Owen a call.
But
Or at least help him work through some grants,
Yeah,
anything.
or fill out the grant for me.
there you go. Yeah.
That's my stumbling block.
Any
And
grant writers out there wanna jump in? That's great. So if these wealthy investors and grant writers want to get in touch with you, where
uh,
can they find you on the internet?
oh, I'm on Facebook, Owen Keehnen on Facebook. I'm Owen Keehnen on Instagram. Instagram actually has a lot of my history work that isn't book oriented, but um, the book with David sort of just all that sort of just picking up now. So that's
Okay.
exciting. But the my history work really coincides with the LGBTQ plus icons in the arts in that I really want to show that history is fun. And David's portraits work so well with that because it's this great thing we can celebrate. It's this great thing we should be proud of. And I just hate that it's seen as something that's not fun or exciting when it
Well,
can be
anyone
fun
who's
and
seen
exciting.
this book knows that it's fun because there's no other word I can use to describe those portraits than
Vibrant
fun.
fun. Yeah.
So if you are out there listening and not watching the video version of this, definitely go check out this book. If you did see the video version, you've probably already gone to check out the book because as soon as he held it up, you wanted more. So great, go buy the book. Make sure Owen and David get lots of love for this book so we can see more work like this in the world. It's so needed.
And
Thank
as
you,
someone
Owen.
who's oh,
Thank
can I say
you.
one more thing?
Yes,
As someone
please.
who's a long time independent bookstore worker, can I just say independent bookstores um, have your back, so please support them.
Yes. Yes. Go to your local indie and order 3 copies and then hand out 2 to your friends. Thank you so much for being here, Owen. It was a pleasure talking to you, and I hope everyone goes out and buys your book right now.
Thank you so
Yes.
much for having me on. Have a nice night.
You too.